Good evening, everybody. Thank you for coming and joining us on this session. This is a series of talks that we at the School of Design, Sushant University, have initiated. We're calling them Fireside Chats, where the whole idea is to meet up with people from the industry, people who are in the profession, who are in the field for a long time, and who have their own specializations, and then have an informal chat and understand what their journey was, understand what the field is all about, and understand where the future in that field is going to be. So these chats are meant as informal sessions, and the takeaways would be ranging from life experiences of people all the way to professional journeys and ideas about the field itself. So there's a whole lot of takeaways that we're expecting from these sessions. We are starting our first session today on the 6th of May 2021, and we hope to continue these sessions forever if we can. And these are weekly sessions. Every Thursday is what we are planning them to be. In case there are any changes, then it will be shown in the schedule. Everybody can join our meetup group, which is where all the repository of all the events at School of Design are actually visible, and you can register and you can join. So today's session is going to be with somebody quite interesting, Mr. Nikhil Verma, and he is a transportation designer and an industrial designer with a wide-ranging experience in the field of transportation and automotive design. He's a passionate biker, he's a passionate travel enthusiast, and very much, I would say, someone who's excited about what he's doing. So I would like to invite now Nikhil to come.
Yeah. Hi, Shashi.
Hi, Nikhil. How are you?
I am good. Thank you.
I think you've had a busy day.
Yeah. Exciting day. I mean, a series of things that we were planning to do. Things are smoothening out. Right now the condition in the city is not so well. So
Yeah.
just trying to. Yeah. But thank you so much for calling me a passionate person. I somehow feel that sometimes I lack the passion and I need to do more.
So when you talk about when you feel that you need to have more passion, that means you're really pushing yourself to the edge all the time, and you need to want more.
I think
So
it's
No,
please, you were saying.
yeah. Please, you were saying something about.
I'm saying that I think it's a privilege for us designers,
Yeah.
that we are able to think, visualize, and then try to achieve some bit of it. If not the maximum, but at least try to achieve some bit of it.
Yeah, that's true. When I tell my students, when I speak to my students, I say, when I teach drawing, right? So when I teach drawing, what I end up doing is saying that if you want a curve to happen like this, you have to move your hand like that.
Yeah.
Unless you stretch your hand, you won't get that line that you want. So design is like that. You need to really stretch yourself, and the more you stretch yourself, you will achieve what you actually originally set out to do. So it's great to have you, and it's amazing. And I know, like, the situation is not that great, and you yourself have just sort of recovered from the whole. I mean, I don't even want to take the name anymore. I just want to say that you have recovered. So I would like to quote one of our students here. I mean, it's become my favorite catchphrase now. So one of my senior students called Neil Paranspe, he's incidentally working with Desmania right now. And so he said this. We asked him, so how are you now? So he said that mentally positive, COVID negative. So I thought that
Yeah,
was
I
very,
think that's
very
how you
appropriate.
did.
That's really the way we want to be, We want to be mentally
No, I agree.
positive and we want to be COVID negative. Absolutely. So,
Agreed.
well, that's something that we can't help. It's going on. We have to just deal with the day as it comes. So, I think it's interesting that we are kind of talking about a subject which is probably in the minds of a lot of people, right? Because I know for sure that when I joined NID as a young student, what I wanted to do was car design, right? As mostly a lot of boys would like to do. And in my childhood, all that I ever sketched were cars. I never knew how to do a 3D. So I always used to do the side profile of various kind of cars. But what I used to do was to also enter the specifications, like V6, 3000 cc, this much, blah, 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 all of that stuff, right? So that was the way I used to enjoy doing, imagining cars. And to some extent, my childhood, which was partly in Malaysia, where I got the opportunity to see so many various cars from across the world, which was not the case in India. Obviously, you had only the Ambassador and Premier Padmini. There were no other cars in the Herald, which was anyway funny because the entire front opened up when you want to do access the engine, the whole thing opened up, right? So my childhood kind of influenced that, but I'm sure this is the same with a lot of people who think of design and think of product design or think of industrial design. We think of cars, we think of transportation in some form, motorbikes. These are the things that attract you when we talk of design. So I want to just maybe ask you, what was your, where did you come from, and what was, it's like entering the scene, like from the
Yeah.
back, you come in riding that motorbike and with a lot of, you either break through a screen or something, or I don't know. So,
Yeah. I mean,
what is
I
that?
think the journey for me probably into the automotive world started during my school time. My school was located uh, between a lot of these. I still remember between a lot of embassies. You know,
Mhm.
so it was
Ah,
located in the
yeah,
center of the embassies.
I
Now
know
the
what
thing,
you're saying.
yeah. So and embassies always had these amazing cars. The ones that we would never see. We would see an S-Team or a Zen. Back in the days, and we would just fancy about, oh, okay, this is a new car. But then I saw a lot of Corollas going by, Toyota Coronas going by, Isuzus back in the day, you know. Then that is what sort of created my interest. And that's how it started for me. I should probably be in class 5 or 6, that was when it started. But then very quickly, I think we all of us during our school time go through a lot of changes. We go through, learn so many things. We try to understand what are we good at. To be honest with you, sometimes we don't even get to know, even in the school time, what are we good at.
Yeah,
That's why we go for our undergrads. Sometimes even after the undergrads, we don't know what are we good at. So
true. Sometimes
yeah,
even now you don't know what we're doing.
yeah, yeah. So yeah, so I think what happened with me was was that I started accepting all the changes that kept coming to me. You know, there was a brief point of time in my life for about 6, 7 years when I only played music. I was doing a job and then I was just playing music. I just wanted to be a musician. But then very quickly life changed, things happened differently. But it was the year 2012 that sort of completely changed my outlook towards design and automotive design in particular. I mean, that's when I got very serious with what I wanted to do for the rest of my life. I mean, I
Right.
think there comes a time when all of us have to do that. So
Okay.
2012 is when we set up uh, a small chop shop. What we used to do is to do a lot of customization on motorcycles. you know
Right. Right.
So I have been riding since the time I was 15, riding motorcycles. Not that I am
This is
saying that.
this is excuse me. This is being recorded. It will be on
I,
public forum. So
no, that's why I'm saying that. There's a disclaimer coming that nobody should ride at 15. Okay, it was
yeah,
just my.
that's what you need to explain at the end. Disclaimer.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, my father had put me on his. So he had a Yezdi 250 classic, and that was my entry into the whole world. And your dads are like your superheroes, no? So he made me sit on the front of the bike. I was 5 years old, and he asked me to throttle it out. And that
Ah.
is the day, and today is the day I'm still throttling it out. So,
I have started that with my 7-year-old daughter, by the way. She sits
you
and
did?
she does that throttle.
Yeah. So
So
you can connect with what it does to you.
yes,
It's power. It's power. And so that's how it started. Eventually, I figured out that I have a very deep connect with the motorcycles. So I started riding. But the main intention to start riding was not to just ride. Ride is fine. I enjoy riding. I improve every time I go on a ride. I improve as a rider. Every time I do a ride, I improve. I can see that in myself. But what's important is also why am I riding? There should be a reason. I ride because I love it, but why? And that's something that took me some time to understand. But what I've learned through motorcycle riding are a couple of things. One is discipline in life in particular, because to be able to do anything in a big way, we have to be very disciplined, be it our careers, be it our personal life, be it, family, be it friends, you have to be very disciplined. And second
yes,
thing is that I've got to know so many people. I've learned
right.
from them. And I've traveled, extensively in the mountains, extensively across India. But this curiosity and the hunger to know people, make
Yes,
them tell you things, learn from their stories, you know.
yeah,
It's very important. I think as a designer, it has helped me a lot.
correct.
So I think this is the general feeling that I have, with
Yeah.
motorcycle riding. Of course,
So
I'm
I mean,
passionate. Yeah, please.
when you talk of designers and the need for designers to be connecting to people, connecting to contexts, connecting to situations, and travel being such a very integral part of it, right? Uh,
I
when you
completely.
travel, you actually you go out of your comfort zone, but like you said, there's a discipline that's part of that whole exercise. You learn to negotiate, you learn to understand other people, their situations, and be able to kind of fit yourself into that or appropriate that situation to yourself, whichever way it may be. And I think that is such an important part of design as well as travel, and the way they connect, I think, is quite amazing, right? And I think riding is one of those things where you're not inside another box, you're out there, you're sitting
Yes.
outside, you're exposed to everything, whether it's the weather, whether it's you know whatever, the environment and everything.
Yeah.
So I think that's amazing
Yeah.
to be
I mean,
able
that's
to
the
get
beauty of
into
it.
that.
Yeah, that's the beauty of it because, when you're out there, so for me to be able to design a perfect motorcycle, until and unless I'm there,
Yeah.
so if I need to design something, I need to be there. It sort of helps you, position yourself there.
Yeah.
And I think designers should take up this. It's a very responsible job. Being a designer is not so simple. It's a very responsible job. I think,
Right.
for younger generations, it is very important to understand that, believe it or not, but yes, you have a responsibility. If you are delivering a product that is to be used on the roads by somebody, it's a matter of
Yes.
life and death, you know.
Absolutely, absolutely. And we do have examples historically of mistakes that designers have done, which has
Yes.
become disasters later on, right? So it's something very, very responsible. So what has been your professional life? You started off saying you set up so bit of maybe where how you studied, and from there where you got onto the
Yeah. So,
professional.
like I mentioned, 2012 is when we set up a small chop shop. We were working on a lot of off-road kits for motorcycles. We designed a couple of motorcycles, re-engineered them, designed
Okay,
specific parts, special wheels, suspensions, things like that to take the product a bit notch up. But I mean,
right.
that was the beginning. But then
Okay,
very soon we figured out that, there's a lot more to it. So I started it off, one of my colleagues joined, one of my friends joined, then another one, then we've also expanded now to a big team. But that's how it all started. But then eventually we were focused on developing specific parts for the market, for
hmm,
the aftermarket parts. But then the thing is, and I think it's also part of the whole learning curve in this design field, is that you will fail. We failed.
hmm,
We failed to understand that there's something called market.
right,
Our idea can be amazing, but
yes,
is the market ready to accept your idea? That's the most important thing. I mean, that is the big difference between a product being a success and not being a success. You know,
yeah,
so we are not Bugatti. We are not a Bugatti that makes only 200 cars in a year. We can't do
right,
that. Because we can't sell that. But so we failed. We understood that there's something more to it. What we were good with was with our creative ability. you know so we started selling that creative ability. That's
right.
when I got a chance to move to Hong Kong.
Okay.
Then, yeah, and also work with China mainland. So I've
Mhm.
always had a vision where, of course, West is something that all of us uh, really are aware and know about, but I was always inclined towards the eastern side of the world. you know
Okay.
yes,
That's
because I
interesting.
yeah because uh, I always felt that the east was more culturally inclined.
Right.
Because we have a rich history, all of us. If we look at Japan, we look at China, we look at parts in southern
Cambodia,
South.
Vietnam,
Yeah,
Cambodia,
Cambodia.
Vietnam, Thailand, Malaysia. Yeah.
They all have very rich history, culture, you name it, food, arts, anything. And that is what sort of attracted me towards itself. And also the capacity with which China has developed itself in the past 20 years. It's amazing. It's just amazing. I've had the chance to spend some good time in China, working with Chinese organizations, and I know their capacity now. I've been
Right.
to places in China uh, where, I would see factories running day in, day out, almost manufacturing 25% of the global car development that happening. There's a
Oh,
place called
yes.
Jining. There's a place called
Mhm.
Jining in north of China, which manufactures almost 25% of cars that are developed in the world.
All
So you
right.
can imagine the scale.
Yeah.
So, you know, China has really invested a lot in its people. One way to say, of course, India and China don't have a very good relationship, working relationship. That's different. I'm not looking at that. But what I'm looking at is possibilities. You know, so there's an organization called the Chinese Academy of Sciences, which is based out of
Hmm.
Shenzhen, and Shenzhen is right next to Hong Kong. So
Right.
uh, they had a specific unit called Shenzhen Institute for Innovative Design, and I had a privilege to work with them. It's a government organization, so
Hmm.
had a chance to work for the government, you know. So I was working with them as their design director,
Wow.
and that enabled me to sort of peep into the whole world of development and the way China is doing it. It's amazing,
Right.
how they do it. It's amazing how they do it.
Yeah.
So, so from year by year, it sort of helped me to understand where is it and what is it that I need to be doing for the rest of my life. You know, so what we
Correct.
started back in 2012, sort of by the time I came back to India, which was 2019, end of the year 2019. Right before the pandemic started. I was just lucky to get back here on time. So the whole 7 years, 6, 7 years, that was the journey that
Right.
made me understand where I am today and what I need to do now.
So you kind of went there with the seeds of what you had with you, and actually those seeds, when you went there and you spent that time and with that wider, broader sort of vision that
Yeah,
you got to see there, those seeds actually then uh,
yeah,
made sense afterwards, right?
yeah,
So
yeah.
I just wanted to go back to, so you, in your studies, what did you exactly study when
I
as
studied
a student?
international. I studied international design and business management with Hong Kong Polytechnic University School of Design, HK PolyU.
Right, right,
That's
right.
that's
And
where my
that's is that an undergraduate course or is it a
no, that's a
postgraduate
postgrad.
course?
Postgrad.
Oh, okay. So what was the undergraduate that you did?
My undergrad was completely different. I come from journalism background.
Ah, wow. That's amazing, huh? That's amazing. That's Germ-
Yeah, I did my
yeah, boss.
journalism. Yeah, I mean
Ah,
initially, the motive was to, of course, become a successful journalist, but very soon I realized that journalism is not on the right path.
uh,
You know.
which, yeah, that's a different debate now.
Yeah.
No, but it's very interesting that, so that's, I think, the beauty of design as well, right? That it can take in people from all different streams because eventually it's really about dealing with human beings and
Yes.
requirements of, I mean, now, of course, we are expanding the scope of design from only dealing with what people and human beings want to also what the environment wants, also what, you know, ecology and all of that has come into the picture, sustainability and all of that. Designers are working there as well. But eventually, it is a subject that is able to bring in people from all kinds of all walks of life if
No,
they are
I
committed
feel
to
you.
the cause,
Yes.
isn't it?
And yes, I completely agree and I think, journalism also was probably sort of a stepping stone for me because, uh, growing as a teenager and then after finishing my undergrad, I was never a people person, I would say, but the journalistic studies sort of made me understand that, if I need to do something good or big in life, people is going to be the center of my attention. I need to
Yeah,
focus on people. People
right.
need to understand me. I need to understand people. That was the focus.
Yes. Oh, wonderful, wonderful. And you also worked, I mean, so you were in Hong Kong for the studies, and then thereafter you worked in Hong Kong and in China as well.
Yeah. And then moved to mainland China, worked with
Okay,
SIID. Yeah. And
right.
then my last few months in China, I was actually working as a consultant then with various organizations. So
Hmm.
uh, there's one of our partner companies now that have become our partners that are based out of Shanghai now.
Okay,
So I work for them also. So now NCube, which is the entity that we have developed here, works with companies in Hong Kong, companies in China, mainland, and a few companies in Europe.
Right.
Barcelona.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Very nice. Very nice. So, looking when you look at um, the international situation as someone who is from India, right? In the sense that, see, firstly, transportation or automotive design in India is still a nascent area. In the sense that there are companies here which have their R&D and their design studios and all here. There are homegrown companies like Tata and Mahindra and TVS and Hero and all of that, which they do have their own design studios here with their own design teams and all of that. But it's still a fairly nascent country. Now, I don't know exact what is the sort of you can say proportion of design that's purely developed within India for India. But I do know that companies have teams all over the world, and they work the design studios, especially the larger companies do have, whether it's a foreign company having a studio and a setup here in India, or an Indian company having it elsewhere. Like for example, Mahindra owns I think Ital Design, right? Sorry,
Peninsular.
Pininfarina, and Tata has their center in
UK.
Warwick,
Yeah.
UK, and similarly, Hyundai has a development center again in Warwick, as well as in Chennai and in Korea. So, in this kind of a situation, when we imagine what somebody who is wanting to probably explore the passion. Now, I'm not talking about all those smaller studios and other people who are independently working on their own projects, right? So there are quite a few such studios also who are giving the expertise to companies for developing
Yeah.
products. But when we look at, I want to just understand from a large industry perspective, how do where do we as Indian designers or Indian professionals, where do we stand in that? What's your experience? I mean, what's your take on that?
I mean, I think for every company, and if you've seen, in the past 15, 20 years, you know, if we look at the automotive world, there's been an explosion, you
Right.
know, be it motorcycles, be it scooters, be it cars, be it SUVs, be
Yeah.
it anything, I mean, for that matter. OEMs have realized the potential in this market.
Right.
So, I'm sorry. So basically, for a company to look at developing newer products, or for a company to look at uh, investing in design, because design is a big investment for each and every
Right.
company. It's a very big investment. Uh, for a company to invest in design, they need to understand the potential in the market. And I think India has showcased that it has the potential.
Right.
Our automotive sector is going very strong. Year by year, we are only growing. Even during the pandemic, you must have seen that the automotive went down, and when it came back up, it went up too high. But then again,
Yeah.
now it's down. But then this is how it works in the automotive arena.
Yeah.
But if you look at bigger companies, let's talk about two-wheelers. We have Hero. Till 2010, there was Hero Honda.
Yeah.
Starting 2011, you have Hero and Honda.
Yeah.
So Honda definitely identified the potential in the market, and they knew that they could also be, one of the leading companies, and they proved it. They made the Activa. The Activa is selling about 2.5 lakhs to 3 lakhs a month. So they've proved. They have a R&D center here.
Yes.
So this proves that they knew this market has potential. They invested in design. They have a design team. So I
We
think
do have just to interject, we do have the head of the styling Honda who's on our board of studies.
oh wow. Uh, Nilesh.
Nilesh.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
So all I'm saying is that India has proved itself as a very potential market, but I still feel that where we need improvement is that okay, we are a very potential market. That's okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
But when will we start innovating things? The innovation space still lags. Okay, mobility,
Yes.
if we talk about mobility, it's not just restricted to two wheels, three wheels, four wheels, no? It can be anything.
Absolutely. Yeah.
I think that is where, companies are not focusing. Even if we talk about EVs and we are
Hmm.
talking about electric vehicles, we are talking about electric cars. Tata has come up with the Nexon EV.
Yeah.
But to be honest with you, it's not an EV. I don't
It is
agree
not.
with it.
It is not. Yeah. I am with you on that.
Yeah, because it's a normal car which has a retrofitted electric kit, but it's not an
Correct.
EV. It's not a grounds up electric vehicle.
Exactly. 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 Very, very true. So, I mean, the point is now, this is, as you were saying, from what I'm able to gather from what you're saying is that the potential is huge,
Yes.
right? The market is already there, right? The market is already there. The market is there at so many levels. It's not just one kind of market because we have a huge, diverse population with very, very diverse needs, right? The need of somebody for mobility in, let's say, a rural area versus an urban area, the need for mobility between we have a lot of affluent level people, and then we also have somebody who is at the basic level of mobility who requires that. So when we look at this horizontal spread as well as the vertical this thing in each, there's huge potential and there's a huge market. Now, if I am today a graduate um, who's wanting to get into this sort of space, and when I benchmark myself with what's happening in the market and what's happening internationally. So, I mean, the point what I'm trying to drive here is that do is that a wide open field for us? Is it a blue ocean of possibilities in India as opposed to, let's say, in the West or where the markets are really already mature?
Uh, I mean, if you talk about opportunities, I think we definitely have it. We have the
Right.
opportunity sitting right there in India. And it's not like the market is not ready to accept. The market is
Mm-hmm.
ready to accept. It's just that when we're taking a product from idea to development to its implementation in the market and further taking it to the market, what I feel is that we are still following some old school routes. These routes need to change. We need to
Right.
start thinking more rationally. For example, I'll give you the example of China here. Because China, we have so many, to take a product from idea to reality, the timelines in India is very huge. So
Yeah.
I'll just give you an example that if it is a scooter project, let's say just a two-wheeler scooter project, it normally will take about 3 years to 4 years for the product to develop.
Right.
And I'm talking about the internal combustion engines, on
Hmm.
which we have already been working for the past 30 years.
Correct.
You know,
The
now we are
basic
talking
architecture
about,
is there.
yeah, the basic architecture is there. Now we are talking about electric vehicles. Electric vehicles, the beauty of electric vehicles is that, there are so many things that are going to be standardized. For example, the battery, the
Yeah.
powertrain. So many aspects are going to be standardized, and which is needed in the industry for the industry to flourish. What's happening is that even in the development of electric vehicles, the duration is quite long. we need to focus on cutting down this duration of developing the product and bringing it to the market. Now, how will that happen? That will happen only and only with the industry support. There's always with the industry support.
Right.
The industry has already set itself, because if we talk about electric vehicles, the industry that has set up the internal combustion engine plants are only going to be the leaders that will bring about the change in the electric vehicle arena. So let's say, if we talk about two-wheelers, we have currently Ather that's doing a good job. At least their product is really solid. They've come up with a good product. The product is quality. It has quality. It delivers. But still, if we look at that pricing is not what the majority of the population can afford.
Right.
Right. But of course, it will take time for Ather to bring it down.
Yeah.
But then,
and probably it's dependent. Probably it's also dependent upon other factors, right? So there are, like you said, there are when you have a lot of standardized things that actually make up an EV, then the volumes of those standard volumes that are achievable in those standard components, because unlike an IC, internal combustion engine, where there are a few guys who make certain things. For example, somebody is very good in making an engine, so they just make the engine and supply to very others. But in the case of electric, I am assuming that the number of vendors may be actually more, because the technology is such that many people can make it, and therefore when more people start making those components and parts, the cost and the timelines would also come low. Now this is where I think I'm drawing a parallel probably to China, the way.
Yeah, I mean they quickly implemented. See, the thing is that China is a different kind of government.
Yeah.
What is said and done by the government over there is implemented the next day.
Yes.
That's not the case with India. We have a democratic form of government. Things are very different. It just doesn't happen overnight. In China, it happens overnight.
Yeah.
For example, while I was there, they had implemented a new policy where all the electric vehicles going above 25 kmph, two-wheelers, were banned the next day.
Oh yeah.
One day they were operating and the next day they were banned. So
then what happens to all those vehicles?
Nothing. You destroy them.
So they just take it and.
Yeah, they take it and they destroy it. That's it. You can't do much.
And imagine that happening here. There will be a big fire, and God knows all kinds of people will come into the picture, and I don't know what all. The whole system will collapse probably if it happens here.
Yeah, again, but the thing is, that's how China has designed its people. Yeah. They've also designed them, no? So many years, they've also designed them that way. So here things are going to be different, but that's why all this implementation takes time in India.
Yes.
But for us to grow, I think we need to cut down this time of development. Right now, to be honest with you, if you talk about an electric scooter development in China, from idea to reality, 3 months.
Yeah, amazing. And here it's probably 3 years.
Yeah, 3 years, nothing less. If say, and I'm talking about internal combustion engine.
Yeah, but so the other thing is very interesting. What I find with specifically when it comes to electric, right? Because now we are all talking of transformation into EV, electric traction, I would say. Yeah. Whatever the case may be. So already, like, for example, our railways are all electric mostly, right? So that's the very early adopter of electric technology, because that's how it is done internationally. But we can appreciate that today and say that, look, our railways, those big freight trains and whatever else is moving around is running on electricity. It's not polluting. It's not, this thing. Now we are seeing that slowly. We had in between a boom of some electric bikes and scooters, which kind of died down. This was
Yeah.
probably about 10, maybe not even 10, more than 10 years ago.
Yeah.
15, 20 years ago almost. So
Yeah.
suddenly there were these electric bikes which came,
Electric
and then they
bikes, yeah.
kind of sort of petered off,
Yeah.
right? Probably because of battery issues or probably because of various reasons. But we are probably now seeing some more revival of that. The thing about EVs or electric traction that I find interesting is that the configuration that a vehicle, or I would not say vehicle, but a solution, the configuration of a solution for mobility can be so flexible with EV because you're not stuck to that one format where there is a engine and there is something else. Like for example, we already have seen golf carts. Golf carts can be like long with
Yeah.
6 rows of seats, right? Without much problem in making them small or big, right? So these are the things that I find now we are also talking about things like electric vertical takeoff and landing, eVTOL as we call it, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
So now two people transportation devices which will take you from the top of your building to the maybe your office building,
Yeah.
right? You hire that on an app and it comes and then you sit in that and you book, it takes you there, probably even without any pilot, nothing. Maybe it's just completely controlled by this thing. So the electric traction sector, I would say, is it has so much option. Now, my question is, if we are straddled with large manufacturers who we have to depend on because we are not China and we are not we don't have that kind of a system. But what is the role or what could be the role of smaller startups and smaller companies which are providing, because they don't have this problem of configuration and scale, what is the role of these smaller companies to develop solutions which are specific to certain needs? And already we are seeing that happen. It's not that it's not happening. We are seeing last mile connectivity. We are seeing solutions on that front. Either people are retrofitting things, or like we've seen how Mini is figured out the battery bank for auto
Battery.
rickshaws. So it's there in
Yeah.
Bangalore and all. So it's a conventional auto rickshaw which is running on electric, but the battery is of battery changing station. So I want your take on this whole aspect of, I would say, I mean, it's ironical, but we're saying democratization, so in a democracy.
Yeah.
Democratization of transportation and mobility.
No, you're very much right. And I agree with you, because India can't just depend on products in future. It's not going to be a product, let alone ever in the future. It's going to be a product backed up by a service that is going to be the
Correct.
future,
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
we should not just look at developing products because that's not going to be the future. We should look at developing transportation systems,
Right.
because the thing is that products can be implemented in a place where, population density is quite small. We are not a country that has anything small.
Yeah.
So I think for us as a nation, we need to start thinking about implementing different transportation ideas.
Right.
How is it that we can, why only rely on the metro? Why can't
Right.
we do something with our buses? Our
Yeah.
buses are still running. What's changed? The only thing that has changed in the buses is that earlier they were diesel, now they are CNG. Nothing.
Right.
It's not a change.
Yeah.
Tomorrow it can be electric, but what is going to change?
Correct. Absolutely.
The number of people entering in it won't change. The number of people traveling through these won't change. It's only going to increase.
Yeah.
So how is it that we are going to, let these, what we need to do is enable and empower people to use multiple transportation systems. Why only rely on the bus or the metro?
Yeah. Yeah.
Why can't
Yeah.
we have multiple? So when you mention the role of startups, this is what the role of the startups is going to be. It's going to be innovation. Think about
Correct.
newer ideas of transportation. We need to improve the transportation system and back it up with a strong product, of course. But it can not only
Yes.
just be product in the future. If we say that, oh, we are developing a scooter, okay, a scooter is fine, but what comes with the scooter?
Yeah.
Why should I own a scooter? Why can't I just pick a scooter from one place and drop it off to the other? For example, how Ola Electric is implementing it. They've come
Yeah.
up with an idea. They bought a European company called Etergo. They have the scooter now. They're trying to work on a charging network. They're trying to implement it. It might take them
Yeah.
some time, but they will implement it. So I
Right.
think I think that's the right path, and that's where the younger generation or the future entrepreneurs should focus on. And the
Right.
most important thing is going to be is that a lot of times we come up with ideas. That's okay. We have ideas every day. It's our job as designers. It's our job to have ideas every day. But what is more important is validation. So if we have an idea,
True.
we work on that idea. But what's going to be important is the validation that comes with the idea. If the
Right.
idea is not validating itself, then there is no point pursuing it. Like
Right.
for example, I see there are a lot of students that apply, for internships with us, for jobs with us. And I always tell them something. They would come up and show me fancy renders. They've rendered a motorcycle or they've rendered something new or a new vehicle. It's okay, all that is part of your skill. It's good that you are able to do that. But I think, sometimes we need to go back to our core. We need to go back to the basic skills, which is hand sketching. I still ask students to sketch it out.
Yeah.
Don't just focus on, fancy renders. Don't just focus on Photoshop.
Yeah.
इस हाथ में कुछ बात है.
Yeah.
This is it does wonders. So some
And it's
things should
also
be human.
it's also the clarity of your mind, right? Because when you
Exactly.
hand sketch, it's the clarity of your mind. And I think, I mean, from what you're saying, the role of a transportation designer in the future, or a transportation and mobility designer, as I would call it, is overlapping with that of a product designer and a systems designer and a planner.
Yes.
So, for example, we are working on the course in transportation and mobility, which is we're looking at a master's level course at this point. I don't know what will happen later. Maybe it can become a bachelor's level also. But in that, the idea is to coordinate. The idea is to work with. Let's say we have a school of planning. There's a program we have in transportation planning, which is a city level. City level. There, the program is aimed at transportation at city level, at a larger level. This is part of the School of Planning and Development. So we are trying to see if that input can come into a program like this, because if we are imagining a solution, we need to understand all the aspects of the solution and how it contextualizes itself to, let's say, a country like India. For example, I'll give you a simple example what I have observed. The Tata buses that are running in DTC, the green buses, the CNG buses, they are from a brand called Marco Polo. Marco Polo is a Brazilian company which Tata bought. So it's owned by Tata and it's a Brazilian company. The bus design is basically the Brazilian bus design. The width of that bus is not suited to our roads.
I agree with you.
You know, it's huge. I mean, the length is fine, but it's massive. It's so wide. And if one of those buses breaks down, which they do very often on the roads of Delhi, you have a massive traffic jam. You see, this is where I think the critical part of what you put where and how products to be conceived. Now, I can imagine that same Marco Polo bus maybe um, 1.5 times longer, but half the width, and articulatable.
Yeah.
Just some thought. I mean, Chennai already had a bus like that. By the way, I don't know if you know. Chennai used to have these buses, which were two buses, which were articulated with a
Okay.
vestibular thing in between. So it's the
Ah,
size of two buses.
I remember.
If not two, it was 1.5 buses at least.
Yeah.
And I have seen long ago in Trivandrum in Kerala, there used to be buses with one dummy bus, which was pulled by the one in front. So the one at the back didn't have any driver, nothing. It had a self-steering mechanism,
Okay.
and the one in front used to pull it. So again, it
Okay.
increased the number of people without necessarily increasing the maneuver, making the maneuverability. So these were innovative solutions we had at those times for public transport, like double deckers and whatever else. So I don't know. I just feel that the role of a transportation mobility designer of the future is really about a systems thinking
Exactly.
and is really about appreciating what is there. So I think that's where we need to really put our effort, isn't it?
No, I agree with
Rather
you.
than the renderings or the
Yeah. I mean, see, that's renderings are good. They are skills.
yeah
If you can do a good render, that's awesome. But the role of a designer is not to make a good render. The
yeah
role of a designer is to think. And the role of the designer is to think 5 years from now, not now, 5 years from now.
yes yes
So that's what is the big difference between being a good designer and coming up with innovative design solutions. Because that's the need of
right
the hour. It's going to be. Our country really needs it.
right. No, I think it's a huge potential is there, and
Yeah.
with encouragement from the government, encouragement from the private sector, especially to startups, to people who want to solve problems more than anything else, because they are facing those problems and they are able to react to those problems. And people who are facing those problems, if they get around, so the young generation who are here, the audience which is probably seeing this, and who will continue to see this as a recording later on, if they feel like today we are so many people are facing problems today in today's context. I'm talking about today. Things like reaching oxygen somewhere, for example. It's a live problem. Those oxygen cylinders are huge, and people are lugging them on their motorbikes
I
just
know.
because it's such a dire emergency, they have to take it, right?
Yeah.
Now, these are real life problems that we are facing in front of us. And I think the younger generation, has that ability and also has that responsibility to design, take up these things for the future
I agree with
and
you.
do it creatively. I mean, it's not it's something that you will feel satisfied at the end of it. So, I mean, I have one last question. What do you think the vehicles of the future are going to be? What are they going to look like? And what would mobility mean? I mean, if you just imagine, what are the kind of things that we're thinking?
I a lot of times I get asked this question, and I always draw reference. Okay, so all these Hollywood films, the ones where
Ah,
they show aliens coming to Earth. You know,
yes.
have you tried realizing one thing, that all the time these aliens that are coming to conquer Earth and America is saving us? Have you tried to focus on the kind of creatures that they make? They make them so ugly.
Yeah.
They always make them so ugly. With hands like this, different kind of hands. You
Yeah.
know, what I don't understand is that, tell me something. They are aliens from the future, or some other land that has far superior technology than humans with hands like these. That cannot happen. Evolution doesn't work like that.
Yeah.
I think what is important is the evolution. When I'm talking about evolution, uh, you know, the vehicles of the future are not going to transition like, all of a sudden. They have to evolve, you know. So this evolution is a process, and this
Right.
process depend highly on the kind of inputs we keep providing it,
Correct.
So, when human understood that, okay, there's something here. This is something that is going to be our future. We started working on our brain, and now, we are the most significant species on Earth.
Yes.
The reason
Yes.
for that is brain development, right?
Yes.
So, similar way, I think, how industry is going to feed this development will define how the future of mobility is going to look like. But I think that younger generation should focus on coming up with these newer transportation systems.
Right.
About how is it that we can disperse these people? We have so many people. How is it that we can disperse them into using different means of transportation? Why only rely on personal vehicles? Why not focus on public transportation system, things like that? And I think that is going to define what the future of vehicles is going to be like in India.
Right. Right. And also, I guess the way we are living our lives, whether it is for work or leisure and other things, which currently probably is being disrupted as we are in the last 1 or 2 years, and this disruption is going to bring in change which will be permanent, which will be there for a very long time. We're not necessarily going to go back to the old ways. So that's another, and so that's another way in which this whole scene can actually evolve.
I agree with you.
Yeah, and there's a huge scope for transportation. I mean, any designer for that matter, because I think design is going to be one of those subjects which will be on the top of the heap. Because eventually, designers are the people with that sort of ability and foresight and understanding. They are the ones who are going to actually lead the pack. And then, of course, they're not going to do it alone. They're going to have other teams, other people, other experts with them. Sometimes somebody else some other field may lead it. But the designer has the space in all the different fields. And because that's the way we're trained. So where we started off talking of observation, being with people and understanding people's needs and bringing that together into a solution and seeing that. So that is really where I think we are all headed as designers, and I'm quite sure that our young designers are going to come up in the next many years, couple of years from our school also, from other design schools also. We are all going to have we're going to have a lot of opportunities, and we should just take that up. So that's wonderful. I think we have overshot our time also. So we thought we'll do 1 hour. So
Conversation, if we overshoot a time, this means the conversation is good.
yeah, but then you know that you and me can have this continue this conversation for the next 3 hours.
I know.
Maybe all the people here may not be interested in waiting for such a long time. But so I want to just ask the audience if there's, I mean, I don't see so far any questions as such, but if there are anybody with any questions,
I'll be happy to.
I will be very happy to answer that. Though I don't see any questions right now. If there are any, we can ask. Otherwise, okay, we have one question. Is that a question?
Hello, Nikhil sir. This is Nan this side. And in the beginning of your conversation, you mentioned travel and design and how it's played an important role. So can you just explain that a little bit of how everyone can, because everyone's fond of traveling these days. Everyone's a travel blogger and all. So how
And
through travel
now
can
everybody
we actually...
now everybody is more interested
Sorry.
in traveling.
Yeah, because they can't do it. Yeah. So, what are the tips and tricks that you can give for a designer that how they should change the way they should travel to improve the design sensibility, or get takeaways from a journey to enhance their designs.
First of all, can I get your name again?
Nan, Nain.
Nan. So, Nan, very interesting question actually. To be honest with you, all these takeaways that I've had through my travels, it actually takes some time for you to understand, what is it that you can implement, what is it that you take out from it, to start putting them in your work. But I think where it all started, and the most important thing that I felt was is getting to connect with people, to start developing this question. Because when we meet people, we talk to them, we ask them about their lives, we ask them about how they live, what they do, several things, right? Uh, while on the travel, sometimes we are resistant. We don't like to talk much. We become very, sometimes people are scared. For example, and I can also understand why, because if girls are traveling, it's not very convenient to be okay with talking to everyone and anyone, right? So I understand that there are constraints, but the thing is, to become a good designer, you have to be a good conversationist, to be able to start a conversation, to be able to extract information. You need to really grovel them, talk to them, make them give you information. So, for example, it can be just something about, for example, I've visited Shimla, let's say, what is it that you want to look around in Shimla? Are you interested in knowing the food people eat in Shimla? Are you interested in what the local people do in Shimla? And then again, it's not just about conversations, it's about observation as well. you know so you need to understand through observation. When you're traveling, try to look out for things that are important, for humans. For example, when you travel, or when I travel, or when Shashi travels, I think we might be traveling for different reasons. you know for me, um, I would sit by a river for hours, just because the sound of the river provides me that comfort. It's meditative to me, you know. So I might just sit there for hours just listening to the water flow, but then it is also giving me information on life and on the universe, that how important the flow of water is. And you learn from all this, and then you implement it in your work. So there are certain human things that needs to be understood. And nowadays, we are controlled by technology. To be honest with you, it's not something that I really cherish, but you always have that device in your pocket that's tracking you. You always are connected with technology. So I think a little bit of disconnect from technology is also important. So next time you travel, and if you really want to connect with yourself and nature, maybe go out for a walk and keep your phone in your hotel room. Leave it there. Just go observe people, what they do, what they like, and you'll gather so much data. You'll be amazed. You'll be amazed. Trust me on that.
Very true, very true. In fact, the urge to take a photograph,
Yeah.
to pull out the phone and take a photograph, and then the moment you take a photograph, you have the urge to now post it on some forum because you want to do it right then and there. Because what if somebody else posts the same thing before me, kind of thing. But I want to add one thing to what you said. This is my personal this thing, because I also like to travel and I like to go back to a place more than once.
Yeah.
A lot of times people, when they travel, they go to travel to tick the box. They say, I've been there. Now, done and dusted. That's the word that people use, done and dusted. It's never done and dusted, according to me, because the next time you go to the same place, you see something else, because something there might have changed. And that's very important for me. So if when I travel with my family, we end up sometimes going to the same places 6, 7, 8 times over maybe 2, 3 years or 4 years. So that's very important as well, because you do then you actually start absorbing what it is all about. Otherwise, it is observation. If you go more than once, you keep going, and even it could be in your neighborhood. I'm not saying you have to go very far. It could be in your neighborhood, but you go to the same place again and again. You see the transformation. You understand the larger forces at play. Like the river, for example. The river may have changed course from last time to now. That is something which you will observe when you go there again.
Yeah, I just love the color. Every time you go and visit, and the color is different. It's amazing.
Amazing. So life, I would like to quote one of our forefathers of design in India. Somebody called Dashrath Bhai Patel. Dashrath Patel. Dashrath Patel is considered to be the father of Indian design because he was the first person who was taken in by the Sarabhai family in Ahmedabad to set up NID. So Dashrath Bhai was sent to study in various places. He was a artist. He studied as an artist from Chennai. Very, very accomplished person. There's a museum of his work in Alibag because his entire work is now in a private collection in Alibag. So Dashrath Bhai, when I met him long ago, about 20 years ago, he was already quite senior, of course. He said something. He said, and this is a quote that I use very often, saying design is something which is all around. Everywhere in the periphery of life, you find design. So if you don't know life, what will you design? You see, it's a simple thing that, yeah. So that's, I think, really the essence of what we want to try and reach in our profession and career. Any other questions, anybody? I don't see any more questions reflecting here unless somebody wants to ask now. Otherwise, I would like to sort of thank Nikhil for his time and thank everybody here to having attended the session. I hope this was something which was useful, and we plan to have this on a weekly basis. So every week we will be inviting someone like Nikhil who has been there doing that, not been there, done that, but been there doing that. And and provide insights into life in general, design in particular, things of interest, industry. Design is like this. It's free flowing. It can happen in any place. It can happen in any way for anything. So conversations on design are also like this. Projects in design are also like this. They are structured, of course. They're not random, but that's the nature of the subject. And I thank everybody for being here. And thank you, Nikhil, once again for taking the time out.
I want to thank you for inviting me. It's amazing. It's been a while I've spoken so much, and thank you so much for giving me the chance because, we were going through the whole Corona thing, the recovery, this, that. I think my lungs are functioning perfectly now.
Very nice, very nice. Good to hear that. I have one Q&A here which says, so does it mean that life itself is a design? Yes,
Oh, yeah.
life itself is a design. You can call it a divine design. You can call it your own design, but it is a design, and it can be directed by you to a large extent, I would say.
Yes, and not just look at it from this perspective. Sometimes life may not turn out the way you think it should, but that should not undermine the fact that your time is going to come. You have to keep at it.
Yeah.
Just like any product, we fail multiple times, but then we come up with the right product at a certain point of time. So you have to give it time. Things don't happen overnight.
Yes.
It is a very time-taking process. You have to have patience.
Absolutely, absolutely. We have one more question. Siddhant is asking, how far does a system-level approach to transportation design address the problem of traffic congestion? That's a very specific question.
Yeah, but very genuine question. I mean, if we look at the problem of traffic congestion, I mean, I think Gurgaon is the best example. The kind of traffic congestion that happens. So, sometimes I would have meetings in Manesar and I have to cross Gurgaon to reach there. I would reach there in like an hour and a half, but coming back, it takes me about 4 hours, where I live, 3 to 4 hours, on a regular day. So yeah, I mean, when Siddhant is saying that a system level approach to transportation design address the problem of traffic congestion, yes, I think a system level approach is what we need, because if you've seen, even artificial intelligence is kind of playing a very important role. I mean, what is Google doing? Google Maps.
Exactly.
It's artificial intelligence, right? It's letting us. So it's a system that's helping us. It gives us alternative routes, at least, if not 50% of the times, but at least 30% of the times we are saved. We might just save our time. And I think that's crucial. I think this pandemic has also shown that, what can happen at home. It's a new system, working from home. It can be implemented. You don't have to go to office every day. You can work out of home, save time, save your time spent on the road. So I think, yes, system level approach to transportation design will solve the problem of traffic congestion. And I think this is something that, future entrepreneurs should look at. It's very important.
Yeah. No, I completely agree, because like you said, it's the lack of a system that is creating the problem, or a lack of a proper system or a planned system, planned enough to actually give you that option of. But yeah, technology is coming into the picture. Google is the very good example of how we use AI and crowdsourced information to actually process the data and give you solutions, right? So that's there. There are many other experiments which are going on. Things like, for example, 2-day weeks with the other 3 days being from home. So you travel only for certain things. So I think this scenario is changing, and we are going to rely more on systems, which makes it even more important for having trained people to deal with it. All the way from the city planners and the people who are actually planning these new things in the infrastructure, to the people who can imagine the solutions. The designers are actually going to be part of that solutions, providing the solutions. The startup sector, all of that. So yes, system level approach is absolutely. Systems is where the issue is most of the time. Wherever the system is working well, then things happen very easily. Example of our own traffic rules, right? The way people follow traffic rules. I mean, here we have such chaotic traffic, but if you see, naturally the adjustment of the system is such that we don't have fatal accidents so much, at least in the city. But if you go to a Western country where everything is absolutely streamlined as per that kind of system, then the chances of a fatal accident is higher if somebody goes out of that. So it's a balance between what the context is.
Yeah.
Seriously. Anybody else has any other question? I don't know, because every time I say I don't think, there's a question, and there's this question which pops up. So I don't think so.
All right, Shashi.
Thank you once again. Thank you, everybody, and we'll catch up again very soon.
All right. Thank you so much. Bye. Bye, everyone.
Thank you. Thank you.